Welcome into episode number 28 of the Masters in Coaching podcast. Wherever you download your podcast, we thank you for that. We suggest the iHeartRadio app. That is our favorite platform for downloads and listens. We also thank you for watching on YouTube and across all these video outlets as well. Episode 28, and we couldn't be more excited to talk to this week's guest. She is the softball coach and professor at Oxnard College. She's Erin Lawley. And Erin, welcome. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right. First off, tell our listeners and viewers kind of the state of the program for you guys right now at Oxnard, the softball program. Did you guys get a 2021 season in, and what's it been like right now here in fall?
Gotcha. Well, spring 2021 was a little tricky, as it was for so many of us. We got a few games in, but small team, and with all the COVID protocols, we were only allowed a few games, but luckily, I have 5 rock stars who've returned. And so coming into fall 2021, we're full tilt. We're back to practicing our 3 days a week in the fall and having our non-traditional games as well. And then the plan is to play a full season, 40 games, spring 2022. So knock on wood, have the schedule set and ready to go, and have another group, in addition to the 5 returners, some strong women who've come on board as first-year players. So really looking forward to finally rebuilding some of that steam that we had when I first got here in fall 17. And we were cruising and doing really well and had so much momentum going into spring 2020. And then, of course, things shut down. So took a few steps backwards because of all of that, but striding forward aggressively in a really positive way.
I wanted to follow up on that because 4 years in, you talk about getting the program going in the right direction, and then COVID hits and it shuts down everybody in 20 and 21. You mentioned an abbreviated season. How hard has it been to get back on track? You mentioned the 5 returning girls you have, but getting girls, recruiting, coming in, going around to the different high schools around Oxnard. Has it been tough for you at all?
Yes, it has been tricky. As a new coach, at that point I had met during my first couple of years, I had met the local coaches, and so had started to really build a bond with them and some trust so that they felt comfortable advocating for their young women, student athletes, to come to Oxnard College. The other coaches that I was competing with within the district had been here longer. So they might have a different strategy. They don't necessarily have to show up to all the games because everyone kind of knows who they are, where I'm the new kid on the block, but also we have the youngest program in our county and our school district. So they've had a lot of bumps and bruises in their first few years as a program. And I believe we're going into our 15th season, which is my 5th season. And so we built so much stride. In 2020, we only had 18 games, but it was the first time we were over 500 during my first 3 years. And it was also, at the end of our shortened season, we actually tied the school's best win percentage in the softball program. So we were taking all these steps forward, and unfortunately we've had to take a few back. We also weren't allowed to physically recruit during much of the COVID stuff. So I wasn't able to go to their workouts and practices and games and stuff until much later, once things simmered down a little bit. So that made it tricky as well, because I didn't have that face-to-face contact to really let these young women know how great the program is, how I'm here every day, both as a professor as well as a coach, because I can advocate with them with our different programs on campus and tutoring and counseling and things like that, because they're my colleagues and I know them perhaps in a different way than a part-time coach would. So it was tricky, but I think we're finally building that steam up again. And the multiple steps forward we made, we did take a few back, but we're back going in the forward progression. So excited for that.
That is awesome. Erin Lawley is our guest here on the Masters in Coaching podcast, professor at Oxnard College, head softball coach as well. I want to go back a little bit in your life, in your career. You get your degree and you get it in journalism communications, and you're actually a writer, a sports writer for 4 years before you get into more coaching and teaching and getting your teaching credential. But 4 years as a sports writer, what stopped you from pursuing that career? And I guess first off, what made you get into being a sports writer?
I've jock at heart in all of the ways, and grew up with family members who were all really into sports. And I was a 3-sport athlete myself: volleyball, basketball, and softball. And I knew I always wanted to be attached to sports in one way or another. Initially went to college to be an athletic trainer. And then I decided I actually wanted to write about it because I got an internship when I was in college, and I was like, this is really awesome. And then I was the sports editor and then eventual editor-in-chief of my college newspaper, and just ran with it. I was fortunate enough to get a job right before I actually graduated from Cal State Monterey, and my hometown newspaper as a full-time sports reporter, my first real big girl job. And I did that and I loved it. And, it's so hard as a sports fan and a former softball player to, sit in the stands and watch something happen. You're like, oh, I would have done it this way. And it just really started getting me thinking. Money was tough. And so I started substitute teaching to make ends meet. And I really, really loved it. And then wasn't able to do that anymore. And I was more upset than I figured I would have been, not just from a financial standpoint, but I really enjoyed being there. And so I definitely couldn't coach while I was working at the newspaper because the hours just completely overlapped. So I got a wild hair, and I applied to Sonoma State and got in, and I took one class prerequisite for their credential program. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I finished that class, I was like, all right, yeah, we're doing this. Quit my job as a reporter and went to school full time, finished that. And before that fall semester started, I reached out to my alma mater, my high school, the head coach there, who I knew from being a sports reporter, mm-hmm. and said, hey, looking to coach, can I help out? Can I chip balls? Can I do anything? And he offered me the head JV coaching position. So I'd never coached before. Had played, of course, my whole life until through high school, but all of a sudden was a head coach and figured out what the heck to do, and then went from there, and then was a varsity assistant and then a varsity head coach. And then I was a D2 assistant up in Northern California, and teaching and coaching through all of that as a full-time high school teacher. And then I realized I wanted to take the next step, and that's how I found Concordia for my master's.
Why at that point in your life? Because you were, 5-6 years in to teaching and coaching. You mentioned you're at the college level, the high school level, very successful. Why at that point, I need to get my master's? Why Concordia University Irvine at that point in your life?
I wanted a challenge from both a coaching and a teaching perspective. High school, you're there because you have to be, which great in a lot of ways. And I feel like educators, especially at public institutions, can make a real significant difference in these young people's lives, both as a coach as well as a teacher. And I enjoyed it, but I wanted to be in a situation where my players are always there because they want to be, but I wanted to be in a place where my students were choosing to be at that level. They're choosing college, they're choosing my class, whether it's me or the content, or maybe a combination of the two. And in order for me to become a better coach, I would reach out to local coaches in the San Francisco Bay Area and just sort of invite myself to practices and say, hey, can I watch and take notes on strategies you do and how you run a practice and organize a practice, and was just trying to get to know people, but also learn from these great men and women who, had been doing things longer than I had and were at a different level. And at the time I met the then San Francisco State head coach, Christina Byrne, and she introduced me to her wife, who's the head coach at Dominican. And I had mentioned, I'm thinking about getting into the college coaching arena, and she offered me her assistant position for the following season at Dominican. So I needed to still teach full time. So I taught full time at the high school that I'd been at for a few years. And I just started the master's program. I was just in that one leadership class, I think Principles of Coaching and Leadership. And I loved it. And then I just kept going, and I finished my program with Concordia at the same time I finished my one and only season at Dominican. And then I kind of just sat on it for a year and then applied to Oxnard College, and 4.5 years later, I'm here.
What has been your kind of philosophy as a head coach, having learned from different coaches, and you did a great thing, kind of soaking up and absorbing from multiple coaches at different levels, having taken that stuff and learning from different coaches and philosophies, Has that helped you make your own philosophy as a coach, your own style as a coach?
Oh gosh, absolutely. I've learned a lot of what to do, but I've also learned a bit of what not to do from different coaches, and not just from softball, from baseball, from basketball, soccer, football. Because I think coaching is coaching, and then you just stick the specifics of the sport in there. I do think one of my main things, coaching, but also as a college professor now, is I'm coaching or teaching the person before I'm coaching the student athlete. They're the student first, but really they're the human first. One of my mentors, not that we know each other personally, but I follow everything he does, is Coach Patrick Murphy at University of Alabama. He's one of the best there is out there on the field, but also off the field. And I've been fortunate enough to hear him speak at the NFCA convention a couple times and been in groups. And he talks about how we're teaching and we're coaching the person first, because their needs need to be met off the field in order to make them be able to be great on the field. And of course, we want to win games and things like that. And I want to make these young women the best softball players possible. But a lot needs to happen before they get on the dirt in order for them to be successful in both of those arenas.
I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago, because I've got 3 girls, and my oldest is a freshman in college right now, and she's playing college lacrosse. And it's something I tell her is that you're no longer forced to go to high school. We're not driving you to school. You're not taking yourself there, and you have to go to class, and you decide to play a sport. And you mentioned that at the college level, working with young ladies or young men, whatever sport it may be, they're wanting to go to college there. That's the difference is, they can go do something else. They don't have to go to college. It's their decision to pursue their education and to pursue that sport. And that's something that's a little different as a head coach, being from at the high school level to the college level, especially at the community college level, is these are kids who really want to be there.
That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
They specifically chose Oxnard College because of the softball program, maybe something we have in our curriculum and academics. Our field is stunning. They have a best friend on the team. They thought I was cool, any of those reasons, but they chose to be here. And it's my responsibility as their coach to make sure that experience for these hopeful 2 years where they get their associate's degree, and then I send them off to go be a butterfly elsewhere. Hopefully at a 4-year level, if that's what they feel is best for them as an athlete or academically, or ideally a combination of the two.
Erin Lawley is our guest. She's a professor at Oxnard College, also the head softball coach at Oxnard College. The Condors going into your 5th season now as the head coach this spring. 2021, certainly challenging. 2020, certainly challenging. But the community college level, we've talked to coaches and ADs at the high school level, small colleges, D3 colleges. You're our first coach and professor we've talked to at the community college level. You mentioned the kids really want to be there and making sure that you help them send them off to that next university. But how tough is it to get kids to come there and play for you? How tough is it at the community college level to wrangle in these kids?
It's tricky in certain ways, and others student athletes, they know this is a great jumping off point. I would say that my student athletes range from the athlete who wasn't necessarily the best academically, so a community college is the best fit for them to start. Maybe they're a little younger, or their maturity level's not quite there. They really want to stay close to their family. Others, it's a financial thing. What's one of the best things about my college is we offered up to 2 free years of tuition for California residents.
Oh, wow.
So come to school, live by the beach, and go to school for free for 2 years and play on an amazing field. I mean,
that's
I'm
not
not
bad,
right? A lot of the travel programs, they really push their softball players to go to a 4-year and find that elusive scholarship, whether it's to a 4-year out of state or in state, or even a community college out of state, because community colleges outside of California, they can offer scholarships. A lot of times they have dorms. They're referred to more as junior colleges than community colleges. Here in California, we have more than 100 community colleges. And usually a student or a student athlete goes to the one closest ish to their home. But as an athlete, we have amazing softball players here in Ventura County, which is great. But I'm still trying to find some of those hidden gems in other areas and have them relocate. Currently, I have a few girls who commute a little bit, under an hour, but in the past, in 2020, I had 4 women who had relocated to Oxnard in order to play. And it's nice when we can get the best of the best here in Ventura County, but a few of those players from LA or Santa Barbara or elsewhere, because we can really make a nice program.
What's next for you, Erin? I mean, you've gone far in your education. You've gone now different levels, coaching and teaching. What's next for you? Where do you see yourself in a few years?
Hopefully here, but with a lot more wins and maybe some playoff berths under my belt. I stay really busy here. I'm now tenured. I'm very fortunate to have that. But I also love the area. I'm a recent homeowner. I'm currently the co-president of the California Community College Fast Pitch Coaches Association. So I'm in my 3rd year of a now 5-year sort of tenure, or 2nd year of a 5-year tenure. And so stay busy with that. I'm part of the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association. So I go to their convention every year. But to be honest, I want to stay put here. My ego's not scratching at, this point saying I need to be at a bigger and better college until I start winning state championships left and right. I have a lot of progress that I can do for this community, for the school, the program. We're still really young, and I'm the first female head coach for softball, and I'm the first full-time coach in the program as well. So I have a lot to do, and especially only being a couple years in, I hope to be here for a long time. And I have a new assistant coach who gets here in a couple days. And luckily she and I are really looking forward to just making great memories, but showing, the rest of California, and especially our county in Southern California, that we're one of the best programs. So come play here.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about Concordia University Irvine's Master's in Coaching and Athletics Administration program, the nation's #1 athletics graduate program out there, 100% online, face-to-face. You can do a blend of both now. Post-COVID, it is out there. Thousands of people have graduated, gone into coaching, athletics administration, successful all across the country. People have been placed. CUI.edu/coaching for all the details, CUI.edu/coaching. Erin, talk a little bit about your experience with this master's program. How was it for you? You were still teaching, you're still coaching. Did it work? Were you able to make it all kind of fit together?
Yeah, it was a lot because I was still coaching and teaching full time. And I finished in 5 of the, semesters or quarters. So I did it pretty quickly. I took 1 class that very first, which was spring, and it was during my season. But then I took 3 that summer because I had a little bit more flexibility since I wasn't teaching. And then I had 2 each of the next 3 quarters, finishing during softball season, which I was really nervous about. But Rose and Brianna, who's actually one of the coaches at Concordia University, she was my portfolio mentor in my last semester. And coincidentally, since I was the assistant coach at Dominican, that was one of the first years that Concordia was a part of our conference. We played them. Oh, wow. So I'm playing my professor, coaching against her. And we got some chuckles out of it, and it was great. Concordia did beat us 3 of the 4 games, but we got 1 in there. But that was really fun. I really enjoyed the classes. My first class was the leadership class. And that was amazing. It was such a great starting off point. And I think it really set the tone for me as a returning student to the college level, but also as to what the program could offer me. I started implementing things I was learning from the class almost immediately, both in my physical education classroom, but also on the softball field. And I got excited to be a student because I was learning about things that were so relevant to me as well as my students and my athletes. So I really enjoyed it. Other classes I really loved. I love the psychology of coaching class, the ethics in sport, which I think is the core. And then of course I took the softball class, and I believe it was Deanna Kingsbury was my professor for that. But then I've been able to return as an alum, and I went to the California Coaches Conference a couple years later, and I got to sit in the classroom with your Concordia's head coach, Crystal Rosenthal, and learn from her and just sit there and, you know, salivate and just get to learn more stuff from all of these amazing female coaches out there who are doing so well with their respective programs. So I've been very, very fortunate, both as like a kid learning and both as a coach and a student, but also being able to see these amazing coaches do what they do on the field. It's been awesome.
Well, Erin, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You're doing great things at Oxnard College there. Continued success, and we wish your program well. Hopefully the Condors do big things in the spring here of 2022, year 5 for you. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Masters in Coaching podcast.
Thank you so much. Take care.
My thanks to Erin Lawley, head softball coach and professor at Oxnard College. Great season, great things coming for those Condors this spring in 2022. Again, if you want to find out more information about Concordia University Irvine's Masters in Coaching and Athletics and Administration program, go to cui.edu/coaching, cui.edu/coaching. Thanks to Erin. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks for listening here on the Masters in Coaching podcast. Until next time, so long, everybody.